So I wanted to touch on this too because you know I'm a huge zombie fan. I
Hmm.
always have been a huge zombie fan ever since I was a kid. Playing Resident Evil with my dad, watching the Resident Evil movies. I mean, I think I saw every single Resident Evil uh, of the Paul W.S. Anderson franchise, which I know gets a lot of hate, but I think I saw every single one in the movie theater except for the first one. Um, but George Romero is the father of the zombie genre.
Hmm.
He is, I mean, he literally created the genre basically. When Night of the Living Dead came out in 1968, and he continued that with Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. Um, and really, for me, I own the original trilogy. Well, I don't own Dawn. Dawn is incredibly hard to find. I own Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead, which is a fantastic remake. But the original Dawn of the Dead, I think it's in a vault, or it's there was just a UK release of that movie, and
Yeah.
I was like, yes, I was like, finally I can get a copy of Dawn of the Dead. It was like $600 because it's like a whole fancy 8 disc collector's edition box set. I was like, no. I was like, I want to own a copy, but I'm not going to pay $600 for it. Um, so it's incredibly hard to find. But George Romero, unfortunately, he passed in 2017. Um, but he did Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, and Survival of the Dead before he did pass. And I think I haven't even seen the three of them all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces on TV or on YouTube or whatever. But they're B movie-ish. I mean, to be completely honest with you, they are.
B movie-ish.
They're low budget. Um, it is what it is.
Oh,
I mean,
they're like straight to DVD movies.
yeah, it's like it's a CGI fest, just gore. The story is kind of crappy.
Hmm.
And the original three weren't like that. The original three were so heavy on practical effects and on, it was just all of the zombie tropes and all of the zombie um, aspects were created in those three movies. They were amazing. But I want to share this article. Let me get this pulled up here because George Romero's final stamp on the zombie genre is going to come to light. It's going to happen. So
Twilight of the Dead.
I saw this on Bloody Disgusting. Twilight of the Dead, which is the final script that George Romero ever wrote before he passed away, is getting a chance of coming to life. So obviously this article, the Hollywood Reporter originally reported on this, but his wife Suzanne has been working with screenwriters on the script, and they're seeking meetings with directors. They're looking into who's going to actually direct the project. She said the story is set in a decimated world. Life has all but disappeared, but there still may be hope for humanity now. My hope with this, just off of let me back up. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead, you have night, you have day, or dawn, you have day, land survival, land diary survival, and then this is Twilight. So we've kind of gone through the whole day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think in his universe, this, because it's called Twilight of the Dead, hopefully this will be the cap. This will be it. I will say, if they're having meetings with directors,
It's
they
soon to
they
be in production.
right, they better pick the right director, because I mean, dude, that's big shoes to fill. I mean,
To
you're
finish to
trying to
finish
fill,
George
you're trying to
Romero's.
finish George Romero's freaking last zombie movie. Like, that's a
Mhm.
big deal. Uh, so
Who do you like off the top of your head? Who do you think would be a good fit for that?
we'll get there in a second, because
Quentin
I have some
Tarantino.
interesting. Could be. I would hell, dude, shit, I wouldn't be against it. I would not be against it.
No,
Um,
Quentin Tarantino has his own saga that he wants to finish. You know about that,
yeah,
right?
no.
Like he said 10 movies and then he's done.
Oh yeah. I knew he had a number. I knew he had a
Yeah.
number that he wanted to do. Um, he's real strange in a in a weird way.
He's
I like him a lot.
he's
I love
he's
his movies.
great.
He's strange.
Quentin Tarantino's a great man, man. He's one of
But
my favorite directors.
Suzanne Romero had this to say about Twilight of the Dead. She said, I gave him my full blessing as long as I could be there every step of the way for it to remain true to George's vision. We had a solid treatment and the beginning of the script. I can 100% say that George would be incredibly happy to see this continue. He wanted this to be his final stamp on the zombie genre. And of course, she's talking about Paolo Zalotti, who I believe wants to bring it to life. He wrote The Treatment. And, obviously, she even says it's no secret that Diary and Survival were not the way he envisioned the series ending, and George knew it very well. Twilight of the Dead was his goodbye to the genre, and he wanted to go out with a powerful film. And of course, there's a shot of Land of the Dead. I mean, you can see it's, you can see it's kind of B-movie-ish.
That's a George Romero film right there.
Yeah.
When you talk about George, because obviously I'm not a zombie fanatic as you, but whenever you talk about George Romero, I expect some really good.
You
film,
expect that original trilogy, man.
Yeah, but
that original trilogy was incredible.
So I guess those are considered spinoffs, pretty much.
I don't even know if I'd consider them spinoffs. I don't understand why, if the first three were so true to practical effects and to originality and to a serious plot line, as serious as you can be with, I know there were comedic elements in there, and they were wild and crazy, especially Day of the Dead. But I'm not sure why the last three were so cheesy. I mean, it was 2005 and 2007 and 2009, so it was a part of that 2000s. Everything in the early 2000s was kind of cheesy, I mean, it just was. That was the world we lived in. But you asked me about what director I would tap to do it. I'm gonna be straight up with you. I would tap Zack Snyder.
Really?
Fuck yeah, I would tap him. Pardon my language, but yeah, I would tap Zack Snyder.
Okay.
Because
because of his thing with Dawn of the Dead?
Yes, I really loved what he did with the Dawn of the Dead remake. And again, you could look at that movie and say, well, that's got the same kind of cheesy 2000. I mean, that came out in 2004, a year before Land of the Dead. You could say, well, yeah, but that's got the same cheesiness and 2000s atmosphere that, these did. And while that's true,
Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead is whenever they're stuck in the mall, right?
Yeah, which is what the original Dawn was. He remade his original film. George Romero's original film. I love it. It's one of my favorite movie remakes. I mean, I watch it all the time. Not all the time, but I mean, probably at least a couple times a year, maybe I watch it. It's fun. I mean, it's a fun ass zombie movie. I would tap him for that reason, but also even look at what he did with the Snyderverse. Zack Snyder's movies are very they have a dark grittiness to them, and I think with the right treatment, if they really, if George Romero's wife is serious in that this is going to be his final stamp, and this is going to be the next Night of the Living Dead or the next Dawn or the next Day of the Living Dead, I mean, it would have to be dark and gritty. I feel like it has to take itself seriously while still containing all the same zombie tropes about, apocalypse and end of the world and panic and all that stuff. Because, I mean, let's face it, zombie movies are fun. They're serious, they're scary, they're bloody, they're gory, they're nasty, but they're fun. It's fun. I mean, it's fun to see what, it's a scenario thing. And we've talked about this before, and I want to do an episode on this, on zombie movies, because it's fun to imagine, just like in The Walking Dead or in Resident Evil, it's fun to imagine, what would you do? What would you do in that scenario? I mean, you've seen TV shows about it, people prepping for the zombie apocalypse. I think it's going to happen, whatever. I don't think it's going to happen. But, it's a fun scenario thing. Most movies, you can't really put yourself in those shoes, but almost everybody in zombie apocalypse films, you can put yourself in their shoes. You know, you can be like, what would I do? You know what I mean? If this was really happening, what the hell would I do? Where would I go? What would I use as a weapon? Who would I choose to find? You know?
Bro, if I was in this, if I every time I do that, I'm always, whenever I watch those zombie movies, I'm always like, if I was in that position, honestly, I'd die like wholeheartedly. Don't know what I'm doing, brain dead, and like I couldn't imagine what I would be doing in that.
I don't know. It's fun. I think I've always loved the zombie genre because it actually kind of scares me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think out of any, I mean, I love slashers. I love, paranormal horror movies, but I think out of any horror genre, the zombie one scares me, especially in times we're living in right now in pandemic world, because
Yeah,
I mean, like it's the most, I don't know if I'd even say it's the most realistic, but you can get away from a slasher. You can run from Leatherface. You can run from Michael Myers. You can run
mm-hmm.
from, you can run from somebody who's waiting outside your door. You can't run from that. Like that, the zombie apocalypse, man, you can't run. Like you have to find a way. And there's so many different scenarios and so many different ways it could play out. I think that's why I've always loved it so much, and I think that's always why it's appealed to me. Also, Resident Evil. I mean, Resident Evil had a big part of it, to be completely honest. I mean, it did
Mm-hmm.
because I
You
grew
just
up with
you
Resident Evil.
just you just
But
love impending doom.
I do though. I don't. It's weird. Like I know it's weird. I mean, I could be a complete weirdo, but like there's a feeling I get when I watch 28 Days Later or Zack Snyder's Dawn of the
Mm-hmm.
Dead, or any of those original zombie films. It's just this like impending like, holy crap! Like everything I know is about to stop, and that's scary. Like I find that scary, and it's almost intriguing because I find that scary.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So kind of returning. I mean, I hope that Twilight of the Dead is everything that it should be, and I hope they do George Romero justice in telling that story. I'm curious to see what his script and what his story is.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad that they're actually attempting to make the movie instead of, sometimes, so they just leak the script and they just like, here, like this movie's never gonna be made, but you at least get to read the script. I'm
Yeah.
glad they didn't do that because I feel like that'd be such a nut kicker. You know what I
What
mean?
releasing the script? You mean?
Releasing the script but not making the
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
I don't know. He's just such an iconic director and such an iconic like person in motion picture history.
I agree. Definitely one of the filmmakers Hall of Fame in my
Oh,
book.
absolutely. And we just talked about this with the upcoming Resident Evil reboot. I sincerely hope, and I know there will be some CGI in there, like I know that, but I seriously hope that they go practical and they don't do CGI, because I'm gonna be completely honest, zombie CGI sucks. It sucks. It really
I
does.
mean, yeah, I could see where you're coming
I mean,
from.
do you remember like even in early The Walking Dead, like in early Walking Dead episodes, some of the splatter, like when they shoot a zombie, some of the splatter would be CGI. And like you
Yeah.
can tell, like you can just tell, like even when Michonne kills the governor's daughter, like that was CGI, and you can tell Herschel's head getting cut off. You can just tell when it's CGI and when it's actually a
Well,
real practical effect.
that you gotta understand that's also a TV CGI, which is never the
That's
best.
fair.
So I'm sure if it was made in the movie, it'd be fine. But then when you think of movie CGI with zombies, you look at World War Z, and that was pretty it was pretty tacky. Storyline, phenomenal, great.
I
But
adore the storyline of. I think the storyline of World War Z is sensational. It's great,
yeah,
but
it's
the
literally
CGI zombies, it like it rips me right out of it.
mhm.
I just can't. It's like, why? Like why? Like why? you
But
know?
then again, you kind of can't practical effect a horde like that.
Right. And I get that. Like, when you see all of them running and it's chaos and the camera's moving quickly, I get it. Like CGI that's fine. But when you're showing a close-up of one of the zombies' faces, or even in a hallway scene when Brad Pitt's like walking down the hallway after he's infected himself with whatever disease that was, like that didn't need to be CGI. Like you could get a group of 40 people together and put them in makeup. I mean, look what The Walking Dead does, and they're a TV show. Like you could do it. So I don't know. Well, that's the other question: is if you're going to do that, who's going to do the effects? I mean, it would have to be Tom Savini or Greg Nicotero. It would have to be.
Holy hell, you had names ready to go.
Yeah.
I had to think.
I mean, hell,
Okay.
Tom Savini, he's older, but he could do it. Greg Nicotero, Greg Nicotero learned from that. He's a big Romero fan too. He's a big zombie fan in general. I mean, get the two of them together, tag team it, man.
Yeah, do you realize like how big this zombie movie could be? Like in order to I don't know, pay homage to George Romero, like bring in all of these people that idolize this man to make the movie.
Absolutely.
Like, I could totally see that. If I like moving on, like for future reference, like whenever we start hearing more about this movie, like if I don't hear like names of directors and special effects people that don't idolize or know who George Romero is, like I'm gonna be turned off by it. Like if I see them coming in, I'm like, okay, this is definitely gonna be a movie to keep watch.
Yeah, I mean I think people turn their even some horror fans, they turn their nose up at zombie movies. Dude, if they got
I know what you mean.
They do though. And I'm sorry, because there's so many fan films and there's so many
cheesy
zombie
ones,
films.
yeah.
There's so many terrible ones, which they're even fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I was in middle school, I'm so weird. I'm weird as fuck. I know I am. When I was in middle school, I used to go on YouTube and watch like zombie fan films. Like that was like I just did that. Like that was just something I thought was fun. And I still every now and then I'll still do it just because it's fun. But
I think whenever I think of like a cheesy like zombie flick, there's one that I keep thinking of that reminds me of it. What's it called? Z Nation. Have you seen that?
It's a show. I want to watch that all the way through. I haven't actually gotten to watch it all the way, but
it's a choice. It's
a choice.
I didn't mean it like that, but it's definitely a zombie movie, but they're definitely like doing a greater scope of it. Like they're expanding on it immensely. And I saw the series. I won't spoil anything, but
have you watched it like all the way?
Yeah. Shout out to Anthony and Audra. They saw it. They watch it. They are
You're
like
ahead of me.
Yeah, they saw it, and every time I'd come home, I'd just sneak a peek. And yeah, honestly, it looks pretty good.
I have a whole zombie section down here in my movie collection.
I'm actually really surprised you haven't seen Z Nation, to be honest.
I've seen some of it. I've seen a couple of seasons, but it's on my list of stuff I want to go back and rewatch because I haven't. I mean, it's been forever. I'm really excited about The Last of Us, that they're doing an HBO adaptation of The Last of Us.
Oh yeah, that.
I'm really, really excited. I really enjoyed that game. It was different. Okay. It was a different take on it. It was something different. And obviously, again, George Romero, man, the lore, he created the lore of you get bit, you get infected, you turn into one. I mean, that was him. He did that. Zombies were more of a voodoo-esque kind of thing. It was never rotting flesh and disease and infection and pandemic. It wasn't about that. And George Romero made it about that. I mean, that you got to credit him with that. But what Neil Druckmann and the creators and writers of The Last of Us did was so different and so creative. It was cool. I loved it. So I'm really excited to see how they adapt that too.
Yeah. And you definitely need to see Z Nation.
I will. I'm not gonna maybe lie. Even this summer.
Now that it's in my head, like you have to see it. I'm interested to see what you think of it as a George Romero fanatic or fan. I don't mean to use fanatic as derogatory, but
and I can appreciate zombie movies that don't stick to his same thing, you know. but I mean, I like what he did. I genuinely enjoy what he created, because he really did. I mean, not only his films, but again, the lore of, it's a virus and you get bit and you get sick and then you die and then you come back and then it infects people, and that whole pandemic global scale kind of thing was started by George, man. He was the founder. He was what did that. And even going back to what you just said, I hope that they realize how big of a movie this could be, because it could kind of be a big deal.
Yeah,
It
good.
really could. If you
This,
tap the right director and you get the right people involved, especially since his wife is so down for it and so like, please, like, make his vision, like, finish this
mhm,
for him. It could be really, really cool.
I agree.
So I hope that Twilight of the Dead is cool. It's a dope name too. I think it's the coolest name other than the original three. I
Yeah,
dig it.
but every time you kept saying Twilight, I kept thinking of like New Moon and
Oh, my
all that
god.
bullshit. Yeah, that's what
Suzanne Collins.
yeah, I keep thinking of Robert Pattinson and all that shit.
Say what I am. Vampire.